Yeah, thanks, Justin. I'm not used to being pinned in the corner like this, so I might move up the pitch after a while. But yeah, my talk today is fairly simple. I won't go over time, I promise. Beef Herd Plus, it's an Irish product for Irish farmers. And to get into it, I suppose, what is it? I mean, it's a beef breeding information service. That's what it is primarily. Lots of data here in Ireland. Located in the ICBF database. You'll see lots of diagrams of the ICBF database probably during the week. You'll hear people talking about it. Dave alluded to it earlier. I'm not going to put up a diagram of it. You're probably sick of looking at it. It's very, very big, is what I'll say about the ICBF database. And there's lots of different data strands coming into it. That sounds very simplistic, but it is from every angle of the industry, the farmer obviously registering his animals. You've marts there, weighing animals, selling animals. That data comes in. You've factories killing the animals. All that data comes into the database. Cows that calve out in different herds, they all come back. So there's one way I always describe it, the ICBF database, is there's nowhere to really hide really for a farmer. His data is probably more than likely going to end up in here in the database, and we're going to find out about it. But I suppose to get down to it and get down to Herd Plus, the farmer records the information on their animals in Ireland generally just once. We only ask them to tell us when the animal was born once. It only has one date of birth. That might sound silly, but in lots of countries dealing with different organisations, they can have a couple of dates of birth for various reasons. They can have different birth weights, different live weights, stuff like that. So in Ireland, we try and stick to one version of the truth. So that farmer will record the information once, and if that animal is sold on to another person, other people may record information on that animal as well. But all that information, crucially, comes still into the database. So if I've got bullocks and I sell them to someone else who weighs them and kills them, I still get to see how that bullock did, so I can make a better breeding decision. If I sell pedigree animals to someone else, I don't have to send them the pedigree cert and get another organisation to re-key in that pedigree cert. It's already there. So the data moves around. Okay, the animal moves around, but we track it all the way around Ireland. We all the different areas that it can move into and move out of. We have all that covered. So I'll put up some examples in a minute just to show you how that happens. But basically, Herd Plus is a service that pulls all of that information together, pulls it all together from all the various aspects of the industry. As regards an overview just to the service itself, it was launched in September 2007. I suppose at that stage, the ICBF database was getting pretty mature. It had been on the go since the year 2000, with all of the big data strands built that were going into it, the factories, the marts, etc. All the data was coming in. So the database was full of information, and really we had to get it out there. We had to make use of this information, allow farmers get their hands on it and really start to benefit from the database, because as Dave said, an awful lot of work and money has gone into getting it there to start off with. So we see huge increases in the last year in farmers joining up to Herd Plus, and this is primarily due to the Department of Agriculture getting behind a scheme called BTAP, where farmers had to join up to Herd Plus to get into it. So we have seen a big increase in the last year, but it has been growing steadily over the years. Justin is involved in another programme, the Better Farms programme, and they see some of the guys, Adam, the lads here, they use the reports that are in Herd Plus as well. Again, just to get a gauge on a farmer to see how is he doing, where are the areas here that we can improve on that the farmer himself may not know about. As I said, it's part of the BTAP National Recording Scheme. And as well as that, interestingly, 90% of the farmers that are in Herd Plus, they go in online, they go on through the internet and access their data that way. Only about 10% we have to post it out to them. So, it makes it a lot quicker. Okay, not everyone is up to speed on the internet, but they get there, they get someone in the house to help them to get the report off. And on top of that, we always post out the important reports every year anyway, so even if you're not into the computers, you can still find out. We've about 9,000 beef farmers have joined so far. You might say, why isn't there more? But I suppose it's only going since 2007. A lot of farmers aren't aware, I think, is the big thing, that the reports are there for them. And don't forget, it's when you join Herd Plus, you then don't have to start entering data. You've already entered it. You've registered the calves. Okay, once you register those calves, that's the starter. We have that tag in the database, and we'll follow it all the way right to the end. In terms of having data in the database, Dave alluded to this earlier. I suppose the vast majority of beef data in the ICBF database, it does originate from commercial herds here. Now, I don't want anyone to get the picture that we don't have a pedigree sector here. We have a very strong pedigree breeding sector in Ireland, but it's just the size of the way the country is, I suppose, that they make up a small proportion of, say, the livestock that is on the ground, but a very important one. So you can see here the green line going along the top, that's the total number of calves that were born into the ICBF database over the years, and it's increased substantially there around 2008. Around 2008 there, it's gone way up due to the suckler scheme. So this is the animal events tracking it along the way. So through animal events, we get birth weights, we get live weights, artificial inseminations, all this extra breeding data comes in along here. And it's due to that scheme that we got a big lift in data that came in. So we do get 1.93 million calves into the database. That's out of a total of probably over 2 million. So we nearly get them all. We get sires on the beef side of it on nearly all of them. And on the dairy side, pretty much, it's a very high percentage. Again, the animal events, this is our recording data. That all comes in along with it. The pedigree herd books are along the bottom, and this line doesn't really do them justice because of the scale of the graph, but they are growing. They grow every year. They get new members in, new breeders. There's 14 breeds in Ireland that are hooked up to the ICBF database. They use a service called Taurus, and they make up about 28,000 registrations every year. So, I mean, both sides of here, the commercial and the pedigree guys, are dependent on each other, because if we only had the pedigree guys along the bottom here, we'd have a small enough database to be able to test animals in, find out, you know, which bulls are siring cattle with the better live weights, etc., easier calving. But what happens is there's huge interchange between these two sectors. The guy who produces the pedigree bull down here, he sells it, it goes into the commercial herds. They record the sires on that. On the calves of that bull, and they get followed through to the factory. So this pedigree guy benefits from the commercial herd in Ireland, from, you know, all the data. It's basically one massive progeny test is what it is here in Ireland. We don't miss too much data at all. We get it all the way, and over the years this has grown to, as Dave said, we're nearly at, you know, it's dream stuff to be up here at 1.93 million calvings in the database, with the majority having sires on it. It's unbelievable. Like, I mean, it was only 10 years ago. I can remember being a young lad doing my work experience in an AI station, and I was minding 10 calves like my life depended on it, because if that hadn't happened, there was a bull that wasn't going to get a progeny test out of it. It was that, you know, and that's how it is, I'm sure, in a lot of countries, that you have to set up your progeny test and you have to follow it through. Here in Ireland, it's just automatic. It just happens. And I'll show you an example of that in a minute. To go through Herd Plus as well, it's grown over the years. It's grown really through, the way we do it is we ask farmers what do they want. They tell us what they want, and they help us design the report. So each of these reports has an actual purpose behind it. And I haven't time to go into them all today. I'd love to. But this big 7 to pick out are the suckler cow reports I'll go through in a minute. The bull tracker report, it's in the Herd Plus journal. It's downstairs on our stand there. That's a brand new report. It's quite unique. If you're a pedigree breeder and you sell a bull, you sell 10 bulls in the year, this report is going to show you how that bull did, how many progeny it had, what weights they were, how difficult calving was he, what age did his daughters calve out at, what were the slaughter weights, all this kind of stuff that I'm sure in a lot of countries it shutters down when the bull is sold. That's the end of him. You don't, you know, bit of luck money and off you go. In Ireland, no, the pedigree breeder gets to see how did that bull do afterwards. The 5-year trend report, again, Justin and the lads in the Better Farms, they want to see how has this herd been doing, and then when they put a few new practices in place, how does it do going forward? So that tells you, for very important traits like calving interval, calves per cow per year, age of first calving, what is the trend in this herd been like? You know, has the herd improved or disimproved? The calving report, I'll show you that in a minute. The Eurostar report goes through all the genetics in the herd. You know, you get a very good breakdown for, is this herd bred for terminal or maternal? Weighing report, a new concept here in Ireland in terms of the type of report. We're going to weigh the cattle, but we're also going to give a weight predictor on it. So you go into a yard, you weigh the man's cattle, you ask him, when do you need these cattle to be finished for? He says, whatever, the 10th of September. Put that into the handheld as it's been electronically recorded, and he gets a printout showing him what's the predicted weight of those animals going to be at that stage. So, you know, it's a totally different way of looking at weight recording, but it's something that's going to get a big push here in Ireland now over the next, from here on really, because maternally on the female side of the beef is something that we have to push up on. Slaughter report obviously gives you back your slaughter details, and again shows you which of those animals that slaughter were the most profitable. Okay, it's not so much which one had the biggest carcass weight and live weight and stuff, which one, what did you buy it for and what did you sell it for. We We have some applications as well that you can run through Herd Plus. You can find out inbreeding wise if you buy a bull, is it closely related to your cows or not. You can record all the events, weights, etc. You get a stock report here, which is very important for department schemes. You can run your own sales catalogue as well. If you're having your own sale of cattle, commercial or pedigree, we don't really make a distinction here that way. You can get that. And of course, a lot of people will find this bull search. It gets 1 million hits a year. People put in their bulls to see what does he look like on the stars. So I'll just pick up the calving report and the suckler cow report. This is the calving report. I'll go through it now. I'll blow it up a bit so you can see it. But just to give you an outline of what these reports generally look like, the black bar is how the herd itself is doing, and the grey bar is the national average underneath. And then we've got various key performance indicators over on the left. So you've got calving interval, you've got mortality, mortality at birth and mortality at 28 days, females not calved in the period. You've got the various KPIs, as we call them, down the left, and then you can easily see if the herd is doing well or not. So at a glimpse, this herd is doing fantastically well on calving report, on the calving. And to go into it in detail, this is the top part of the report. You get the total calvings. He's 78, 17 out of heifers. You get the picture. You get males, females, number of live calves at 28 days. He has 80 out of 81. The average age of calving of the cows is 5 years and 8 months, and then the heifers is 2 years. So immediately, now don't forget the farmer didn't have to do anything. He just signed up to Herd Plus. He logged in and bang, this report was already generated waiting for him. To go through the second section, the calving interval. Again, the calving interval is already calculated. This herd has a calving interval of 363 days, represented by this strong black bar here, and the national average is 407 days. Okay, so he can see here that he's at 363 days. The top 15% is at 365, so he's edging up there into probably the top 10% of herds. And if he was back here, 449 is the bottom 15%. So again, he can quickly see how's he doing. Just to go down through two more. Females not calved in the period. We all want a suckler herd where all the cows are working. You don't want any passengers. So this guy doesn't have any. They're all having a calf for him every year. Although the national average is 13%. So out of 100 cows, you could have that many, 13 that aren't giving you a calf every year. So again, you get to see how efficient is his herd. What's the fertility in this herd? Like, this one is very good. I wasn't going to put up a bad one anyway, not today. So the calves per cow per year is an interesting one as well, underneath 1.04. Again, he's getting over the calf to the cow between twins and very good fertility in the herd. He's keeping them all alive. It's not, national average is 0.79. And when we say national average, going back to my previous graph, we really do mean it, because we do have virtually all the cows in the country. So you really do get to find out. This isn't just a nice comparison with your buddies in a discussion group, your mates down the road. This is big stuff now. This is against the rest of the farmers in Ireland. How are you doing? So this report is probably, the report that hits home hardest right at the start. I won't delay on this one. It just shows the calving pattern of the herd. The current year in black, last year in red. And interesting that Lawrence, the French speaker, in some herds, it's like the start of the Tour de France when they show you all the mountain stages, how you come down at the end. They're calving right across the year, so this guy's just keeping it nice and tight at the end. This, though, for me, at the end of the report is what it's all about, because these reports in Herd Plus, they're not just kind of nice to have reports. They have a very specific purpose. And at the end of the report, we get this section A, as we call it, an action list. So we're telling the guy, this guy in particular probably wouldn't do anything with these cows, but if you had a very bad calving interval, we list all the cows at the end of the report on their calving interval, the highest to the lowest. So he can look in, and we're telling them at the start you have a very poor calving interval, and we're telling them at the end, these are the cows that are contributing to your poor calving interval. So he can go out then and he can have a hard look at the cow and really decide, does he really love her that much that he's going to hang on to her? Is she really doing that good of a job? I've another report to show in a minute now that's going to ask those questions as well. But this kind of information does make you question, is she good or is she not? Now this guy, in fairness, the top cows, an average calving interval of 364, last calving interval of 420, probably wouldn't touch her. You'd ask, all right, why was her last calving interval 420? But, you wouldn't go too hard. The guys with the bad calving intervals, you've got average calving intervals here of 430, 440, higher than that. So, they're the cows you really got to ask questions of. The suckler cow report it is a report really that I think shows exactly what ICBF has done, where all the data strands have come from, and what how can we put into place? It shows the key pieces of data available on a suckler cow and her progeny, okay? Key performance indicators for every cow in the herd are displayed. Calving, interval growth rates, carcass. I'll get into it now in a second. And it allows a beef farmer, crucially, to compare the performance of different cows. And okay, make a better selection decision. But I think also make them decide, do they really want that cow? They've made excuses for her now for the last 2 or 3 years, but is that good enough? Like, I want to be profitable here. She's not doing the business. I like the look of her, and she was great when I go off to shows, we win rosettes, but is she profitable to me? So, say a suckler cow, typical suckler cow in Ireland. I'll get that microphone to here and break out the corner. Okay, is that working? Yeah, you can hear me. The most important piece about this cow for us is that little yellow tag there in her ear. As long as she's got that, we know who she is, and the farmer doesn't have to do much more, only just be law-abiding, I suppose, and fill in all the forms he's asked to fill in, which isn't that much in Ireland. And we have the systems that'll pick her up and her progeny throughout her lifetime. So a commercial suckler cow in Ireland, what do we know about her? It's a fairly typical question. For the pedigree cows, it's all nailed down. We've got a herd book there who's all over them and has everything DNA'd and down to the last, as is the way in a lot of countries. But I'm taking this down now, or up you could say, to the next level. So this is the progeny out of that pedigree bull. And we haven't gone to any, I just pulled her out of the system. No, this isn't actually her, by the way, it's just a nice picture. But the next, this is we can pretend it's her. This is a cow that's on Jim Parkinson's farm, who's on the beef tour on Thursday. And this is the suckler cow report. This is 1 page per cow in the report. So over in this section, this is the calf registration, the animal details. Okay, the farmer told us what the tag number of the cow was. He told us when she was born. If it was a pedigree animal, he'd have put in the pedigree name as well. And through the herd book, that would be there as well. The breed fraction is shown. Again, if it was a pedigree animal, it'd be registered in the herd book. And remember, these herd books are dotted all around Ireland, but they use our same system, so that would come in there. If she was linear scored or weighed, that would be there. And her blup index, this is a commercial cow, but she gets one of these simply through to her back pedigree, okay? So she gets an index of her muscle, her skeletal, and her docility. I had to laugh after talking about docility. We're well aware of docility and temperament and flight times. We do our own flight time testing in Ireland, and often I think it's with more the farmers than the cattle. We've been in shopping centres and everything doing it. So the next section is the ancestry section. And again, the top part there, the sire, his sire and dam is in there, all the herd book. That's herd book data that's there. It's come out of the herd book and it's sitting up there. Little AI code on the bull. Again, great detail here. We're going back to the Department of Agriculture, approves all the semen. So that bull Daffy, he'll have to get an AI code if he wants to come in here, and it's approved and it sits in there. And then the sire of this dam is actually, it's a dairy bull, which isn't that unusual here in Ireland. But again, we don't, just because it's a dairy bull, he goes in there on the system as well. You get to see all of this. Over here then you've got the Eurostars, and so it'd be cheeky of me to say that Breed Plan, it's great to see them following us now with the stars, but we've had these for a few years now, the Eurostars in Ireland, 5 stars the best, 1 stars in the bottom 20%. We use reliabilities here in Ireland, not accuracies, and we have within breed and a crossbreed. Look, I could spend a day talking about stars, but I won't. All I'll say is that, and again, this is the power of the database. We go and try and prove something, find out something, see if something working in Ireland. We don't have to set up a scheme. More often than not, we don't. We just download data out of our database and we have a look at it. So this is 100,000 slaughter records that were extracted over. The animals were killed August, September to December last year. And we look at their back pedigree and we carved them up into 5-star to 1-star animals. And then we see how much did they make at the factory when they were killed. And on average, the 5-star guys at the top, thank God, as you'd expect, I suppose, came out on top at about €1,500 a carcass. 3-star were behind them at about 1,400, and the 1-star guys were bringing up the rear at €1,200. That's for beef carcass merit. Now, we could turn it around and look at calving ease, and we come up with a similar picture. So it's very easy for us to, come up with the stars, and then find out and prove that it really does work out that way on the ground. But I suppose the big part of the suckler cow report, and the bit that everyone loves, is the progeny of the cow. So that's about the cow up here. herself, her back pedigree and her stars. This is her progeny now down the bottom. And this is where all the various people and organisations involved in ICBF step up, and where the data really comes into it, because over here on the left you've got the calving details of her progeny. Just to blow it up there, this is when she calved. September 08, September 09. She started to slip out to October. She came back then in August 2011. The tags of all her calves. So the farmer told us the two of these, and the department verified it. He told us about the calving survey as well. ICBF came in and calculated the calving interval for him, just a quick jot. This cow, 360 days of a calving interval. The farmer told us what the sex of the animal was, and the department, as the AIM system that Dave alluded to earlier, can tell us, well, these two are dead, this one was exported out of the country, and this one is still in the herd. So again, this is where the department have come in now with their data, and they've contributed to this report that the farmer gets and can make use of. The farmer puts in the sire details. Remember, this is a commercial cow, and all the sires for 4 calves are all known. And that's not a fluke. You could pick out any cow really, and 9 times out of 10, this is what would happen. The sire of the calf is there. A limousine bull is what she was put to all the time. Then you go over here to the weanling carcass performance section, and again, if the farmer weighed them himself, that's in there. If he went to the mart and got them weighed, that data is in there. If he got an ICBF linear score to weigh them, that's there as well. So wherever the weight data will come from, it sits in there. Okay, the growth is calculated. And he sold one of these in the mart. It came out at €1.91 a kilo. So the mart data, the day he was sold in the mart, flows back into the ICBF database as well. This is the department's suckler cow welfare scheme, where we asked the farmer to tell us what was the quality of the calf like and what was its docility like. So he said, he thought it was very good, average and very good. Docility average, and the last lad was very quiet. Okay, and in many cases, that's where the story would stop. I think for even the most ambitious of programs, you couldn't go much further than that without the farmer finding out more data. But the factories here are a big part of the picture, and their slaughter data comes in here. So this guy, he sold this animal. He knew he got 191, but that was the end of it for him. He let it off and said, I thought he was a good one. I'm sure he'll kill out well for whoever has him. But he can actually find out afterwards, how did he kill out? And he finds out that at 18 months of age, he got an R plus grade at 330 kilos. And this is the kind of information, when you put the whole line together, that a farmer can then turn around, look out in the field and say, well, now is she a good cow or is she not? This is the kind of information that the farmers in Beef Herd Plus, when they're faced with, they have to answer themselves, and then if they're going to hang on to her. So in summary, it is the most integrated source of beef information in Ireland. I'd argue in the world, but I haven't seen a lot of the world yet. I've been in Australia, but there was a big beef plant there with 16,000 cattle, and they were Brahmins, and they all had tags. I was trying to keep up with my horse to them, but I'd argue that it is. I would have an argument with someone over it, but anyway, so I will say it's the most integrated in the world. It is central to national recording schemes, and in no way would it be where it is, or would ICBF be where it is, without those national schemes backing it up. I mean, they give the farmer the flavour for it. And there's guys in Herd Plus today who probably mightn't be in it only for it, but now that they're in it and they see the data, they'll stay in it. It's continually increasing its membership, which is a great thing. And it's always developing, improving its products. We're never kind of standing still. We always like to find out what's the next thing. So it's €60 a year, just for people around the world have their own programs they might be interested in. €60 a year, regardless of the size of the herd, or if you're from a disadvantaged area, and it's the same. So I'll just finish up on this fella. Just a little plug for the beef tour on Thursday. This is Woodview Gregory, I think is his name. He was a champion at a recent limousine sale, and he's going to be up at the herd on Thursday. I haven't told Jim Parkinson that yet, but hopefully he'll have him somewhere near. So he'll be there on Thursday if you want to see him. That's it, thanks.